of course, it was the car, and then I saw David Hasselhoff. And he was walking, and I was a kid. I was like, hey, David, you know, like, literally, that just walked by him. And I was like, probably like right here, and I never forget it. And my wife was like, let things go. And I'm like, no, I can't. This is one of those things. I let it go, but I just never forget it. And I was right here, and I'm like, Hasselhoff, yeah, and it just walked right by me. And I remember going, hey. I was so let down. And I held a grudge. And then I did the Hollywood parade in Hollywood, California. And I had everyone behind me. All the guys from 90210. This one guy was like, everybody was doing stupid stuff. So I saw David Hasselhoff there. He don't know me, of course not. But I felt probably the best when he was sitting at a table. And I was walking by, and the Power Rangers was pretty big at the time. And he was there. And I was like, once I walked past the dude, I could sleep at night. Now, point proven that he don't know anything, but to myself, I felt good about it. Payback time, even though you didn't freaking care. But you'll never forget it. And then I also heard stories of kids when, buying T-shirts of, their superhero or wherever else, and then having bad experience. And, one kid went back and bought something for someone to sign, and they wanted to sign it, and the kid went back and exchanged it for a new superhero. Said he took his shirt back, said, I don't want this shirt no more. And from that day on, he never liked this superhero guy. I don't want that effect to be on people. So I try to talk to everybody, and kids especially. Like the little kids, they probably look at me and they don't even, who's Power Rangers? Yeah, I'm all tatted up, I'm older. It's like, where's your son Tommy? Whatever. I don't know, but I tell you, kids do know your personality. They can feel you. They know if you're approachable. And I'm even like that sometimes when I meet people. And I'm on tour a lot. And I meet a lot of people. I'm not too excited to. I don't care. This is what it is. But the last Wizard World, Michael Madsen was there, and I love Donnie Brasco, and I love him in Reservoir Dogs and all the mafia movies. But the reason why I want to meet him is not because I was like, although my wife's like, I've never seen you like that. He had no line, at the last Wizard World, and so I went up, and then I asked him this 15 years ago. I was at my Hollywood movie premiere, and a little kid ran out of the bushes, and he had it like, it's kind of scary, like. Hey, Jason Tommy, and he had like dirty White Ranger pajamas on. And I was like, come on, man, I'll sign your autograph. And I signed an autograph, and I heard the guy say, thank you. And I walked away. And they're like, do you know who that was? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Because I'm not like that. I don't know. They're like, Michael Madsen. I'm like, oh, it was? Dang, they walked right by me. So I always wanted to know if that was really him and that was his son. And then it was, like so many years later. And then I'm like, thanks, man. I really, like the movies. And he's like, at that time, he was giving me a hug. I was like, dude, I'm so in the mafia, man. Who do you want me to kill? You're a good guy. And I was just like, took me back to the movies, and I was just like, dude, I'm so in the mafia. Then after you leave, you get back to reality. And I think that's the coolest thing about my job with you guys is that don't care how big you are, how old you are, when you get a chance to meet, you're like, oh my God. Girls go, you were my first crush. All the guys coming up, dude, I so want Kimberly, So it's just funny, man. And it's see, you guys to me are still kids, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you guys grew up on it. I'm a role model. So how can I come up and drop F-bombs all day long? You know what I mean? And I've got kids in here, and how can we talk about something that kids, believe in, if you know what I mean? And my daughter was there, and all the other Power Rangers were saying things that my daughter was almost crying about, and I so wanted to punch her in the head, like, how do you say things like that? And then I get questioned from my daughter, is this real, and I'm like, yeah, baby, and like, yeah, David Yost, the, Blue Ranger said, the reason why he don't visit him, is because he's bad, and, stuff, and other things. So you got to be careful on what you say. So my point is that, I love all you guys, but you're all that whole audience. I try to look as a professional, and you're all kids that still look up to stuff. You can't come up in the middle of a panel and say, like some of the guys, if you watch a Lexington panel, like, some big fat dork, came up with a lisp, and, this is fantasy land. You guys are living in fantasy land, and, this ain't real, and blah, blah. I'm just thinking, just let it go, dude. You know what I mean? I mean, they know now, but you can't crush their childhood dreams right now. You know, and stuff like that. So that's why sometimes I like to tour alone, because I don't talk about, there's after-hour Power Ranger stuff, and I know everyone thinks it's cool, but I just can't go up there and just do all this, drop these F-bombs and talk about this and talk about that. You know, sure, I'll tell you that, you know, nothing happened with me and Pink Ranger. Everyone wants to know that. Even though I know Pink spandex are like, any kind of left it open, like, you know, I was like, left it open? I haven't heard that interview, but I'm going to listen to it now. But, you know, I don't know, man. I just think it's fun meeting everybody, and I'm just so happy that every town I go to, doesn't matter. I just know that dedicated, loyal fans of mine that come to my booths, that gets pictures, that do the VIPs, that comes back and says hello and says, I was at Lexington, and it's a great feeling to know that you're not just going to meet them and never meet them again. You know, and I think that's what I try not to do, and I think people can see that, and I think people can feel the energy, and regardless if you're a fan or not, you're probably going to end up being a fan, you know, listening to something. But I try to tell people, like everywhere I go, that you can't stop your dreams on what you want to do. You know, think about it being a kid. I want to be a Power Ranger. I'll be quiet. You're never going to be. This kid might be. It might still be on. You know what I mean? All the people that got Power Rangers, like, dude, I never thought, and whoever would have thought, a kid at 6 years old, I want to be a Power Ranger when I grow up. Man, you're going to be around. And hey, I know how, you know how people are probably going like, one time, you know, like a million times, you know, or like repeat a million times. But I was coming back from, I went to film Power Rangers, and we were, you know, flying first class at the time, and Gene Simmons was on the airplane, and all these people, which I met him before on set, but I didn't know who he was, because they're like, you know this guy? And I'm like, no, and they're like, show him, and the guy was like, you know, and I tell everyone else, thinking, if this guy licks me, I'm so gonna punch him right in the face. I don't know who this dude is or what he's doing, but then they said, that's Gene Simmons. And so I was like, oh, cool. So we flew on the flight when they were doing their tour, Kiss and all that stuff. So on the way back, you probably don't even know, because I don't care, LL Cool J was on the flight, right? I didn't really know what to say, except, I'm gonna say, not you. I found myself behind him, go, you know, that's like someone sitting behind me going, I'm quiet enough you can hear it, and he's probably like, and afterwards I was like, I don't think I should have done that, but anyway. You guys have any other questions like on the show, or anything like that? You guys did bring stuff from this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally?
Oh, yeah. How does that feel knowing that you, as Power Rangers, probably inspired a whole new generation of martial artists, you know, myself included, because, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people watch the show, and I know a lot of my friends when I was younger got into it because they watched it. How does that feel knowing that you probably inspired a whole new generation of martial artists?
I didn't really, it feels good first of all, but I realized that a long time ago, which most people don't realize it. I went to a tournament, Ernie Reyes' junior tournament, and there was all these people competing and stuff like that, and the guy came up to me and said, dude, you love that kick, we're all doing it now. You know, it's because it wasn't a spinning hook kick, nor was it a spinning crescent kick, it was my jump spinning kick that I always do, that most people now do it. Your generation will say, yeah, you made that up, my friend, you made that up, yeah, right. You know, that's been around, but when I started the show, well, look, there was not a lot of people doing anyone doing that kick. So when I went to tournament, and they were all mimicking the kick and doing this, I felt, wow. So now I look back 20 years later and think, gosh, you know, there's a few kicks that I developed, like the sliding flick kick that no one does, and you know, but I don't want to be like Seagal when he worked all the guys' corners in UFC. He's like, I made that thrust kick go, and you know, seriously, that thrust kick was developed. But it feels good to know that, and to know that they're growing up now. You know, some of them are leaving schools and teaching in schools and, you know, all that stuff. So it was great that we influenced a lot of people. 20 years ago, though, we got blamed for violent issues left and right.
Oh, yeah.
And went to Canada and went on an appearance in Canada, and some girl said, well, how does it feel? And, you know, and I was like, it feels good. How does it feel to kill a kid? I was like, excuse me, ma'am? She's like, a kid got beat to death in Canada, and they were playing Power Rangers and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And all the other guys on this did what I do. I quickly responded and said, oh, man,